It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. And now, here are your hosts.
Hey, good morning. Scott Luton here with you live on Supply Chain Now Radio. Welcome back to the show. We're continuing our coverage this morning at the AIAG SCAC Supply Chain and Quality Conference in North Charleston, South Carolina. AIAG, the Automotive Industry Action Group, and the SCAC is the South Carolina Automotive Council. This conference is dedicated to the world of automotive, and we've been spending much of our time meeting and interviewing with many of the leading industry thought leaders that are participating here. Big thanks to our conference broadcast sponsor, the Effective Syndicate, for making our coverage possible. The Effective Syndicate helps companies win by optimizing process and developing winning cultures. You can learn more at theeffectivesyndicate.com. On a quick programming note, like all of our series on Supply Chain Now Radio, you can find our replays on a wide variety of channels: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcasts. As always, we'd love to have you subscribe so you don't miss anything. So let's welcome in my fearless co-hosts here today, Greg White, one of our standard ongoing co-hosts here at Supply Chain Now Radio, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur, and semi-trusted advisor. Trusted advisor. I gotta get you back there. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing pretty standard, Scott, I'd say.
Oh boy, what a Friday morning.
It is Friday, can you tell?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a series of great interviews here. I think this is number 8 or number 9, and have really thoroughly enjoyed not just the passion around the table, but also the diversity of thought and kind of the different angles that folks are involved in across and in supply chain. And then Bo Groover, founder and president of the Effective Syndicate and co-host of our Successful Leadership Matters series here on Supply Chain Now Radio. Bo, how you doing?
I'm doing perfect.
We're able, even that last episode.
Better than standard.
Wow.
Better than standard.
Wow.
On the last episode, we were able to talk culture with Vector Global Logistics, and that was we've kind of been privy to that story for months, if not years. Yeah. But that's really neat to hear Maureen kind of advocate for it and speak to it and be testimony to it. And I know that gets your juices going.
I loved it. All
right, so this episode is going to continue, I think, the interesting interviews we've had here this week. So let's welcome in our featured guest, Chris Mennona, Logistics Planning Manager at Bosch USA. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you here. I know y'all have got a lot going on, a lot of growth, and unfortunately, we had some weather here last week. We saw some of the repercussions at the hotel. Mm-hmm. But at least it wasn't a direct hit. And on that note, by the way, we should have mentioned this on earlier episodes.
AIAG.
Yeah, that's right. So we've all seen pictures of what's going on in the Bahamas and other natural disasters elsewhere. There's a great nonprofit that we try to support as often as we can called AIAG, ALANAID.org. And they're a nonprofit that helps corporate America leverage their supply chain infrastructure to get needed supplies to these disaster zones. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing it for years, and they have they kind of do it counterintuitively. Kathy Fulton, their executive director, has come on and has talked about some of the lessons they've learned from really practical supply. Getting supplies into these areas kind of runs counter to what maybe we'd all think for what we hear every now and again. Anyway, AIAG.org, if you're interested in learning more, great organization is doing good work. All right, so Chris, I know that y'all have been here. You've had team members that have been presenting here this week.
Correct, yeah.
And it's really neat to see. We talked about Norma. This is our first time at this event. We've done plenty of other events, but it's really neat to see some of the very recognizable name brand companies come out and share what they're learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we're here in Charleston, South Carolina, like everyone knows. So Bosch has actually been here in South Carolina. I believe this is our 45th year, if I'm correct. And in that 45 years, the plant has grown from a couple hundred associates to roughly 2,000 associates.
Wow.
So for Bosch, when it comes to manufacturing presence here in North America, the Charleston plant is the biggest facility. There's also another facility in Anderson, South Carolina. So I would say here in the southeast region, there's definitely a large presence from the Bosch manufacturing sector.
So we're gonna ask you some more questions about Bosch in just a second, but let's share with our audience a little more information about you, Chris? Tell us about yourself and kind of your journey to your current role.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually from Charleston. So I was born and raised maybe 4 miles from here, right across the river in West Ashley.
Wow.
And
that's a rarity.
It is a rarity. To make it even more rare, I grew up in the same house my mom grew up in. So
wow.
I'm definitely local. And like a local, I spent 20 years ago, I spent a couple years right here at Trident Technical College, like everyone did from my high school for some time.
What did you say people call it?
Back in the day, we used to call it UNC, which meant University of North Charleston.
Right. Nice.
Very cool.
And it's grown into the third largest educational institution in the state.
It always was, and it always will be. It's a phenomenal technical college here for the region, and also for developing the workforce, also for the manufacturing areas.
So, Chris, you'll get a kick out of this. We had Kathy and Bob on leadership team members here at Trident Tech. And what was their tagline, Greg?
We are
workforce development. It was just like Penn State football, right?
Yeah.
We all want T-shirts but talk about passion. They are, to your point, exactly. They're serious about developing workforce and talent pipeline, supporting industry, right?
Correct. There's been a long-standing relationship between Bosch and Trident Tech concerning the apprenticeship program, which I believe there was some speeches today, I believe, concerning apprenticeship programs here in the region and also in North America. So we've been very fortunate to partner with Bosch or with Trident Tech over the years. And that program, I want to say, is one of the oldest here in the country.
Yeah. Schuler, I think.
Vern Gupton, Apprenticeship Carolina, was on the show talking about some of the neat things they're doing. So what? So after you wrapped up here at Trident Tech, you spent a bunch of time in industry leading up to your current role with Bosch.
That's correct. So I started Bosch in 2008. I got my undergrad. I have a bachelor's in science and international business from College of Charleston. Started Bosch in 2008 actually as a co-op. So that was a student working relationship, which I highly recommend to anyone in college. If you have the opportunity, get the experience with the company right from the beginning while you're still in school. Build those relationships. So when I started in logistics engineering, so in that role, I was responsible for developing internal material flow and optimizing lot sizes and flow together with high volume manufacturing. I think what's interesting when we talk about Bosch and manufacturing is it's not so much distribution we're referring to, but we're referring to manufacturing lines that literally have cycle times of seconds. Some of them, 1 or 2 seconds. So with that, when you're making 30 million injectors a year, you're really trying to optimize all material flow, making sure there's no deviations as far as your supply. So I did that for roughly 9 years in various product line supports before moving into a leadership role with logistics engineering as a group leader. And in that, responsible for all of the plant functions around logistics engineering before I went to Germany on a foreign assignment. So Bosch, like many international companies, they definitely value mobility and associates' willingness to, learn other cultures and kind of learn other standards and actually bring what you know from your facility to other locations in the world. So I was fortunate enough with my family to move to Bamberg, Germany for a little over 2 years. In that role, I was working as a logistics process expert, so basically for new product launches, doing a similar logistics engineering role, integrating new suppliers, material flow, and new customers into the existing facilities there. And that plant, just in reference, in Charleston, we're about 2,000 associates. That plant had roughly 8,000 associates.
Wow.
It was a very old, very large facility for Bosch in Bamberg, Germany.
Man.
I did that for roughly 2 years, and then returned to Charleston into the plant management office as a commercial manager. And in that role, I supported the vice presidents concerning all things commercial and plant related regarding strategies, associates, macro views for the plant. So it was a really good opportunity to kind of learn the macro side of Bosch, along with all the different inputs that actually drive our business decisions from the local plant site and how that affects other locations in the world. Before moving into my current role, which I'm currently the Powertrain Solutions planning manager. So that means I'm responsible for all source, make, and deliver activities for the Powertrain Solution Division in Charleston, which is the plant actually has 2 divisions. So it's a chassis cab and PS is what you call. Lots of acronyms. So if I start speaking acronyms, stop me.
We're used to that.
PS, Powertrain Solutions.
Okay.
CC, chassis cab.
And powertrain,
so powertrain
for amateurs is
powertrain is it's kind of what it sounds like. So these are the components that help drive the automobiles. So in Charleston, for PS, we actually make a low pressure injector called EV14. We make high pressure injectors, so this goes into your direct injection engines. We also make a high pressure pump. So if you have a high pressure injector, you need the high pressure pump to support the flow of the fuel. We also make diesel injectors for your larger commercial vehicles, or say your Cummins 2500s, big Dodge trucks and stuff like that.
Right.
We also make subcomponents that go feeding into these actual injectors themselves.
Great. So do you make the rails and everything, or just where they mount?
So previously, we actually used to have the rail business here in Charleston.
Okay.
In order to free up floor space and to bring in the new products, we actually transferred the rails to another Bosch location. So it's a partnership, and you see that a lot in Bosch, where you have one Bosch plant making one component, ships to another Bosch plant that then uses that to make something else, and so on and so forth. So the rails are actually made in San Luis Potosí. In Mexico, and so we actually make all the components here, the injectors. We ship them to San Luis. They finalize the assembly on the rails and ship directly to the end customer. And there are also some injectors we actually ship directly to the OEMs. So what's important to know is we have a small aftermarket business you might see with your advanced auto parts and stuff, or if you go to a dealer. But the majority of our business actually goes directly to the OEMs.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
Wow, man. So let's talk about what, with all that going on.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No.
No, that is, it is a lot. It's impressive.
That's modern day manufacturing, especially an organization as broad and complex as what you are doing. So how are you able to carve out a little bit of time and come here today? What brings you here? And you and your team here, I guess.
Yep. So there's a variety of things. So there's actually one of my team members has actually taken part in the conference for the last 2 days. There's a couple things that are kind of interesting for us. So one of them is going to be is how's the infrastructure, what are the activities going on here in Charleston to support infrastructure here? As you know, Charleston has grown exponentially in the past 15, 20 years.
Right.
There's a lot of manufacturing coming to the area. So from my side, I'm really curious to see what's going on concerning transportation, warehousing, what's in place to help enable real-time delivery and support the manufacturing areas. The other topic we're concerned with is talent development.
Yeah.
So as we know with the manufacturing companies here in town, they're primarily engineers, but there's really no engineering college here in Charleston per se. They have some portions of engineering at the Citadel, but the majority of the engineers come from, say, Clemson or Georgia Tech or Penn State or up north, if you will. Kettering has an example in Michigan. So really from the talent development side, both on the exempt level and then also for the shop floor associates, where can we find skilled labor? What is being done to actually help make sure that we have the proper people with the proper skills to bring us to that next level as we move on?
What's interesting, going back to your first on the transportation side, is we had Suzanne Dickerson with the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness on one of the last interviews, and she talked about 60% increase in transportation infrastructure by what year was that? Are y'all taking notes?
I thought she said
2040.
40.
2040. We were 60% increase.
We were really listening carefully, obviously.
So
I heard a lot of years.
Notes.
Yeah.
But that is, we all know what goes in now, and we all also are aware of some of the shortages and gaps we're experiencing. Not just on the driver's side, which is, of course, this is National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, but also on the skilled side, as you were alluding to, diesel mechanics and maintenance techs and other folks that keep things moving, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's an important topic. And one thing about me that I guess not everyone knows, my father was actually a truck driver. So you can say logistics has been in my blood. So I'm very sensitive to the workload that these people go through to actually help make material move across this country. So I'm really kind of curious to see what developments are in place for that, for one. Another example, you mentioned it was weather last week. So you can imagine whenever they reversed all of I-26, every lane leading out of Charleston, the struggles for the drivers to figure out how can we still get into Charleston on Monday and Tuesday to start expediting freight out. So there's a lot of complexity when it comes to transportation and manufacturing, and especially the region.
Yeah. Great point. And we had earlier this week, we had 2 transportation executives on a special episode given the week that we're in. And both of them were talking about different strategies for not just recruiting, but retaining and really engaging your professional truck drivers. And one of the points that came out of this, Greg, if you remember, is despite all the automation, despite all the autonomous trucking, all that stuff, which is slowly but surely moving ahead, these folks in these cabs that are driving these trucks are proactive problem solving. To your point, if they know something's going to happen in Louisville, Kentucky, and they're identifying it ahead of time.
Correct.
And they're doing things that right now machines obviously can't do. And that type of experience and expertise in these cabs make these folks obviously they're valuable, but it's such a huge asset to the business.
Well, and they're the front line for so many companies, right? If you're in the food or food service distribution organization or beverage industry, they're they're essentially the customer rep as well as the delivery person. So, you got to drive a 53-foot trailer around, and then you've got to be nice to the manager, right, who just made you wait 4 hours to to get to offload, right? So there are a lot of soft skills and genuine human skills, right?
That's where we got to get better as companies. I don't know if y'all seen this on social media, but there was, and this has been a few months back, but there was a driver check-in. It was a handwritten note on the check-in desk at a manufacturing plant, and it was the rudest note that was sent. It was meant to send a signal to drivers about getting there early or getting there late. Don't ask any questions. Just this needless negativity and lack of appreciation. And while we've seen some companies meaningfully get better at that, we got a long way to go, right?
No, I would agree with that. And that's something really that from a culture aspect we really try to push from our side, especially within the plant. And this is something I repeat to my team, and I learned it from other people. It's not derived from me, but really everyone goes to work for one goal. They want to do a good job. They want to be successful. They want to leave, finish the day feeling like they were appreciated and they had an impact. Right. And that doesn't just apply to the people within our four walls, but also to people that come into our facility to service certain needs and certain requirements, whether it be a truck driver, whether it be a janitor. So that's something from the culture side we take very important. I personally think is everyone should be aware of.
Yeah. Well, produce value and be valued, and people can be really happy with their job.
Correct.
Right?
Well put. So one of the questions that we always like asking is kind of what's keeping people up at night, Bo?
Yeah. So just thinking about your experience and your purview of the supply chain and the production process, what are a couple of trends that you got your eyes on, you're watching, you're aware of, or you're worried about?
So there's a couple things. So right now, I would say it's two that really kind of stand out. One has to do with the inbound material flow. So what's going on globally concerning inbound transportation, the reliability, and also the transparency as far as where are our goods. If it's supposed to be 7 days, is it showing up in 7 days or is it showing up in 8? Any deviation inside, a planned transit time, as an example, the only way to buffer against that is through
safety stock.
Inventory.
Yep.
It's all inventory, and everyone hates that S word, safety stock.
Right.
So any transparency we can have concerning that inbound transportation network, and as we know with globalization, you have some suppliers that are 2 miles down the road. You have some suppliers that are 2 oceans away. So when you start talking about an air freight part from Thailand, it doesn't just go from Thailand to the U.S. There's a variety of cross docks, other hubs that are actually bringing that material here. You have the risk of damage. You have the risk of material getting lost. And everything concerning damage and loss, it all affects the bottom line of the company. And also, from my side, thinking of production, I'm thinking, how is it going to affect the assembly line? Are these unplanned changeovers? Is this going to affect the overall efficiency of the line? How does it affect, the actual, how much it costs to produce our end good? So from the globalization piece and inbound transportation, that's something from my side that is, I don't want to say troubling, but it's something that we definitely keep an eye on. There's been a lot of work from Bosch globally concerning this, and also from the plant side. Another topic that I would say is very important has to do with the talent development. So that's one of the things we talked about before.
Yep.
So I also have my master's in industrial engineering from Clemson University. So one of the things as a IE that I really learned at the beginning, I said, IE, I find it fascinating. Is it really necessary? But from my side, I need logistics professionals who have analytical abilities to look and really kind of quantify what these deviations mean, whether it's inbound transportation, whether it's production efficiencies, whether it's demand fluctuations from our customers. So from my side, all this stuff, if you can really quantify with a logic that's repeatable, then you're able to actually work on problems, and you're actually able to find sustainable solutions. So from my side, really in today's environment, like everything, cost rules the world.
Yep.
So we're trying to do what we can to help quantify what are deviations driving up cost, and then work on solutions to then eliminate those.
It's awesome. And listening to you talk, it sounds almost like a plant manager, right? So I know that you and the plant manager probably work hand in hand.
We just had a meeting 30 minutes ago.
You're looking at the same thing. You're worried about the impact. What's the cost? Is it going to cause more changeovers?
Correct.
So you're thinking like that instead of thinking about how do I get the parts into the plant.
100%
is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just great to hear. Culturally, that's the right way.
So one of the things we have in our facility, not to drag on.
No,
It's
please,
actually,
please. That's what our audience craves.
So we're one of the few facilities who actually implement what's called a value stream aligned organization. So in typical plants manufacturing, what you see is
Bo's getting excited.
Keep going. Love this.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to have, say, your logistics department, your quality department, your engineering department, and they're all kind of separated in these silos. And I think people are familiar with these strategies.
Yeah.
What we've done, I would say roughly 10, 11 years ago, is really work on trying to streamline the organization. So you have a value stream leader who, for us, since we're a manufacturing plant, is typically the manufacturing director, whoever's the head of that manufacturing product line. And underneath him, you have all the functional experts. So in that, there are members of my group that are a part of that value stream aligned organization. The point of that is to help maintain. You want to have your functional excellence within your organization. So within logistics and planning, I need the functional experts and need to make sure they're working on things that are key for us to be successful. But on the other side, from the vertical side, you have to make sure you're focusing on the goals that's going to make the plant successful, because if the ship goes down, everyone goes down together. So we have to make sure, sometimes there's conflicting KPIs or key performance indicators. You want to make sure everyone's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Stinking Lulu. Preach it, man. I love it.
So to our audience,
Bo's you a beer.
to our audience, you can probably hear all the best practices being thrown around the room here at this conference. We're in the thick of things. So, Greg, we like to also kind of look around the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is sometimes tougher for folks, but if you think about if you have to look into your crystal ball, I love the analogy of that. But if you have to look into your crystal ball, any bold predictions for the future? Anything you see coming down the pipe for South Carolina, for Bosch, or supply chain generally?
I can maybe say two. So there's a positive and a negative. I'll say a challenge. I won't say negative. It's a challenge. So that
Don't say negative in front of
challenges,
Scott.
they lead to opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So one of the positives I see. So I know we just had Meg Lanza, who's our Bosch Production System director. She gave a presentation concerning Industry 4.0. So it's really connected industry.
Wow.
One of the trends that I see that I'm super excited about is actually the connected supply chain, the digitalized supply chain.
Nice.
So within a facility, we're constantly working on the smaller Industry 4.0 solutions to help visualize all the technical engineering data from the lines, really tracking all of the key variances so that we can optimize the lines. But at the same time, there's a lot of work being done concerning transportation and material flow. For lack of a better term, if you call an Uber right now, you know exactly where that Uber is and you're waiting for it. If I want to be able to in the future be able to order a pallet of goods from, again, Thailand, and see where is that pallet of goods live, real time throughout the world. With that information, what it does is not just dog and pony, but then you can actually statistically determine, okay, is it going to be here in time?
Right.
What amount of the safety stock is required? How is this going to affect our inline with production? So it's not just with the inflow material, but the overall supply chain is getting digitized. It's slowly happening. You see it with different conferences. I'm sure you've heard about it in different other podcasts in the news. So from our side, Bosch has put a lot of work on developing a variety of solutions and very Bosch-specific names like Track and Trace and Procon and NIV Plus. But all it really is, it's connecting the supply chain. Right. So that's a trend that I think year over year, the advances are being made much quicker than the past. So I would easily see within the next 5-10 years huge leaps and bounds in that side. So that's something I'm excited about.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Along those lines, and you're speaking to some of the analytics and some of the skill sets you're looking for in the logistics professionals you're hiring. With this digitization that's taking place, it's going to require a different type of logistics professional.
I would agree to a point. So in my opinion, there's a certain amount of professions where you need those specialists. Specialist, someone who says, "Hey, I can go program apps. I had no enough computer programming where I can adapt solutions." But from our side, we also need standardization. So we definitely don't want to have every plant in the world creating their own app to track a certain piece of material or a KPI whenever you can have a standardized solution.
Agreed. We don't need co-hosts developing their own series either. We have a standardized solution.
You only need one. You only
Be
need
the
one.
standard.
Exactly. But on the other side, one thing I firmly believe in, it's not so much what people know today that's going to affect how well they perform in the future, is how quickly can they adapt to new solutions. How quickly can they pick up these new topics. Even myself, I consider myself I thought I was young, but apparently I'm not as young as I used to be anymore. And I've had to
Turns out it keeps happening like that. By
every
the way.
year, like clockwork.
Yeah.
That's right. And I find myself, hey, I have to stay up to date a little bit with maybe it's my own in-house home networking or my own IoT solutions, so that I can stay involved and actually learn these activities. One of our plant managers used to always joke around that he's not a digital native, like my child's going to be, who's 6 years old right now, but he's a digital immigrant.
Yeah.
Right.
Meaning, hey, he can do it. He's not going to do it as well as a native, but he can pick it up. And I think that's really something I think it's going to be a key for success in the future.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's a great point. Going back to being able to adapt and learn and then apply. I think a lot of times when we talk about automation on the show, we talk about it that it's a huge opportunity for folks that are willing to do that, willing to raise their hand and take on new responsibilities and learn new things and apply it and make decisions. Right?
Agreed.
It's going to be a challenging business world moving forward for folks that want to do the same thing in the same spot for 20 years. Not taking anything away from folks, but the ability and the willingness to adapt, to learn, adapt with change, digest change, and respond successfully is such a critical trait these days.
Agreed.
I think the benefit there, though, is while that is a challenge, I think the benefit there is that we are going through this current generational transformation. And the vast majority of people who don't adapt will be able to get out of the workforce, and the incoming workforce is very adaptive.
That's true.
So I think it's less of a challenge because I think we kind of skip over a generation or two. We go right from the baby boomers to the millennials. There's a couple generations in there that have grown up with technology as well. I mean, technology was starting when we were all young. I mean, most of us had a Mac, right, from the time that we were in high school.
Apple
at
IIe,
least.
Oregon Trail, right?
Yeah. Apple IIgs.
Yeah. I've had all of those things, right? So I forgot about those. Actually, I think we may have had a Compaq of some sort. It had that really awkward keyboard. But anyway, the point is that we're, the current generations that are remaining in the workforce are very adaptive.
I'd agree with that.
They do tend to embrace technology. I think millennials expect it, and Generation X has always yearned for it, and now technology is able to deliver on it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the way I view it is not so much with the generational changes and with the associates, but I would actually put it on the leadership. And the reason why, and this is something we've been talking about in our organization lately in my own group, is really not saying here's a tool, use this tool, figure it out, now it's on you, but really showing people the why.
Yeah.
If people know the why am I using this tool, why is this better, why is this going to help us in the long run, then I feel like people's ability to adapt to the tool, to learn it, and to utilize it is much better. So one of the things I've been trying to focus on lately is really kind of spreading the why. And if as a leader, if you can't understand the why other than it's cool, it's digital, it's connected, but why is that good? What is the impact of this tool? Then I feel like if we can help the associates understand the why, getting the buy-in and getting the energy around learning is much higher.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's incumbent on us to describe that, right? What's the so what? We used to say that a lot. What's the so what? That's cool. So what?
So
and
what?
Here's what it does, which is back to the why.
Agreed.
Yep. So you've shared. We needed 5 more hours with you, Chris. Can we do that maybe next week?
Oh, I could talk all day.
And I mean that in a very there's so much ground we've covered in the last 25 minutes that all could lead to hour-long episodes each.
Agreed.
For each of the subject matter. But for folks that want to learn more on some of the neat things that Bosch is doing, some of the career opportunities, some of the initiatives you are doing out in the community or industry, how can folks learn more?
Definitely. So if you go online, like every large organization, go to bosch.us. So real quick plug for Bosch, and I don't think everyone really knows, is that Bosch has been around for, now I'm testing myself, 117 years roundabout. They've got over 400,000 associates in 60 different countries worldwide. So Bosch is a very large multinational organization involved in a variety of industries. One of the things, I'm in mobility solutions. So automobiles, OEM manufacturing, but there's a lot of stuff concerning the Internet of Things, household goods, also servicing other industries. So there's a lot of options for people. If you're not interested in manufacturing of automobiles, maybe there's other things that could interest you. So go to bosch.us. And on that, you're going to see a lot of our social initiatives. I think one of the biggest things they're pushing now is really communicating. And Bosch is a very social, environmental conscious organization. Is that we're working to be carbon neutral by 2020. So that's one of the biggest initiatives we're really trying to push towards right now.
Wow.
So it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but if we don't Well, they say if you aim for the moon and miss, you land among the stars.
That's
so
right.
we have to start somewhere.
That's
But
brown.
definitely go to bosch.us. You can also check out Bosch on LinkedIn. So there's a variety of different Bosch organizations on the LinkedIn site that are sharing the tools of tomorrow.
Okay.
You would say.
Great. Is your dad still driving?
No, he's no longer with us, but
Well, I'm
he drove till the end.
Really?
Did he
Oh, yeah.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, sorry to hear that, but I mean, these are critical components that make end-to-end supply chain happen and business
Agreed.
happen. And this is the week where 1 week is not enough. But these folks are just doing critical work and critical contributions. So thanks for
Agreed.
all of your father's efforts. Okay, so we've been speaking with Chris Mennona, logistics planning manager with Bosch USA. Thanks so much, Chris. We're gonna have you back, and we're gonna tackle what you shared maybe in the first of the 7 segments. So really have enjoyed it.
I'd enjoy it. Thank you.
So stick tight for a second here as Greg and Bo and I are going to walk through a couple of upcoming events we've got coming up, starting with Bo, September, is that a month?
September it is now. Yeah, it's got an R in it, so you
September
can,
the
yeah.
September the 20th.
September.
Yes.
September the 20th.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So I'm co-keynoting a meeting with an Emory professor named Robert Kazanjian, and we're going to be talking about the elements of a good strategy and the elements of good execution. So we believe, obviously, if you get those two pieces working, good things follow. So if you're interested, please reach out. We're excited about it. It's going to be a great session.
We are too. And you can shoot us a note to connect@supplychainradio.com to learn more about that. And Greg, moving forward a few weeks on October 9th, what's going on?
Yeah, so that's the Georgia Logistics Summit. Or sorry, not Georgia Logistics, Georgia Manufacturing Summit. I keep wanting to say Georgia Logistics Summit. Georgia Manufacturing Association having their Georgia Manufacturing Summit. And they are having about 1,000 attendees there from some of the 10,000 manufacturers that reside in Georgia. So it's going to be a great session. We'll be broadcasting live with a couple of special top secret guests.
Yep.
Some trade ministers from a couple of our foreign neighbors. And both of you and Bo are going to have, sorry, Bo, you and this guy across the table from me are going to have panel sessions as well.
Great panels.
So,
Great
yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
On our panel, Trends Track and Supply Chain, we're going to be tackling innovation, sustainability, transportation and technology, and demand planning, but not only demand planning, but someone from the HVAC industry is going to talk about optimizing end-to-end supply chain and where there's always going to be gaps. So looking forward to that. And Bo, y'all going to be diving all into the world of continuous improvement, right?
The world of continuous improvement. We're going to be talking about Gemba walks. We're going to be talking about involvement and culture change and the power of Kaizen, to name a couple of topics.
Love it. So here's a neat thing. Well, one more thing about the Georgia Manufacturing Summit on October 9th, Cobb Gallery in Atlanta. So Jason Moss, the CEO of the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, has freed up 50 seats for veterans, no strings attached. We've talked about on this show relentlessly, because it's important to us, how challenging it is for veterans to transition into the private sector, or if they're already there, to build that network. And these types of events, much like the one we're here today, provide outstanding opportunities. So if you're a veteran and you're interested in the world of manufacturing, and especially in Georgia, you can go to GeorgiaManufacturingAlliance.com. The code to get your free seat, if the 50 seats are remaining, is USA Vet. USA Vet. Looking forward to a great event there. Greg, as we've talked about, we're going to be in Austin in November with the Logistics CIO Forum with our friends at EFT. The Reverse Logistics Association Conference and Expo in Vegas in 2020, and then Modex 2020. Chris, not sure if your group ever gets out to Modex. Modex is the largest, one of the largest supply chain trade shows in North America. 35,000 people is who they're expecting in Atlanta, and it's free to attend. That is a deal. ModexShow.com. We're going to be there broadcasting throughout the 4 days. Greg, as we know, they're hosting our 2020 Atlanta Supply Chain Awards. But come out for the networking, come out for the best practices, and hang out with your peers. ModexShow.com. Great show. Chris, really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Your passion, and I guarantee you, if folks are like me, they've gotten 7 pages of notes from some things you shared. But this is why supply chain is so neat, you know, and it's so broad, and it's become so strategic. Supply chain leaders have a seat at the table unlike ever before in this global business environment.
Exactly.
All right, so big thanks to Chris Mennona, Logistics Planning Manager with Bosch USA. Big thanks to Greg White and Bo Groover. To our audience, be sure to check out other upcoming events, replays of our interviews, other resources at supplychainnowradio.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, all the leading sites where podcasts can be found. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. On behalf of the entire Supply Chain Now Radio team, this is Scott Luton wishing you a wonderful weekend ahead, and we will see you next time on Supply Chain Now Radio. Thanks, everybody.